I think as a professional athlete, you feel the weight of expectation anyway. To differentiate the weight of expectation between the fans and the history that has been before us and the weight and the expectation of your coaches and your peers is hard to differentiate, and it's hard to pick one from the other. But I think you do get a big feel about being at Leeds Rhinos. As soon as you walk through the door, even the overseas players that have come over to play for us recently this year that have signed, they know about Leeds Rhinos, and even I were at Huddersfield before, and we're just the town down, and you hear about Leeds being a big club. But as soon as you walk through them doors and you see all the history, it dawns on you then, and it hits you then about how big the club actually is, and internally the expectations that are required from the organisation.
Acknowledging and respecting and educating our history throughout our players, which we love to do. We've got a very strong history with the golden generation that have just been so dominant in the game over such a number of seasons. We had a bit of a team building in North Yorkshire where we went walking for the day, and we invited a couple of guys from different generations with us to spend some time around the players. So what I find with a group of guys that I have currently is they're very very passionate about representing this club. They want to write their own history. They're very motivated. In terms of the desire is just not an issue. They really believe they can achieve and write themselves down in the record books. And I think we know from winning the Challenge Cup a couple of years ago, it is a very special place to have your name etched on some of those boards behind the scenes.
The feel of Leeds Rhinos and the city, and you walk through the city, it's a winning culture, it's a winning mentality, it's a win at all costs kind of thing, and I think it's brilliant to be involved in that type of scenario and that type of organisation for a professional athlete, because that's ultimately what you want. You don't want to go and waste your time as your career goes on. You don't want to go and think, if I'd have been at a better organisation, or if I'd have pushed myself a little bit more, I might have got this out of my career. I think being at a club like Leeds Rhinos, as big as it is, it does that anyway. Not that we need it, but it does that anyway, and I think that's the feel that you get.
It carries a weight of expectation, but we just embrace that, and again, that sort of pressure is a privilege to get up and try and represent and achieve for what is a very storied and famous club. At Leeds, a golden generation dropped off, and that next generation never quite hit the heights from a leadership point of view. So we're very conscious of, we've got a terrific group of experienced players and a terrific cohort of overseas players at the moment, and some of those emerging leaders, we wanted them to grab hold of this team, not just for now, but carry it in the way that Danny Maguire and Kevin Sinfield and Jamie Peacock and Rob Burrows did, and Kylie Lulai for such a long and successful period of time. So gradually we've I guess filtered through the guys that we think will demonstrate ownership of this team for seasons to come, and Kruise is very much at the forefront of that. We came to Kruise, he's young, English, he's got a fair amount of experience on his back. He became an international at the back end of last year, but it was really a period last year that, as most people know, we were affected by injuries a fair bit. He played out of position, and just every week he turned up and showed in some very testing and difficult circumstances last year that he was prepared to lead this team from the front in a position that wasn't alien to him, but a position that all of a sudden he started to look comfortable in, having not really played it in his career much.
It has come as a bit of a shock, but I do feel ready. I do feel ready to do it as well, and I feel like it's not come. Some people see captaincy of such a big club and an organisation as a burden, and for me it's not. It's just the next step in my career, and I think it's come at a great time for me. Becoming a leader for me is not something that you write on your fridge at home, as in right, in 2024 I'm going to become a leader, I want to play in a World Cup. It's something that I think it almost hits you all at once, and you almost have to step up into that role. And it felt very sudden to me. Like, it feels like last year I had probably my career best year, just through working really hard through pre-season, getting everything right and ticking every box, as cliche as it sounds. And then you're almost then looked at through your performances as a leader through that. And then I like to train really hard, and I like to almost live and breathe what I preach to others. And I think people seem to like that kind of character in sport, because it shows that you care. Richard Agar saw that in me, that I care a lot about the club, and then ultimately it made me captain.
He's a guy that looks after himself really well off the field. His professionalism levels couldn't be any higher. He's got a strong desire about his game, and we actually think the captaincy for some people can be a burden. We think it's something that he will thrive on, and we know that when you put him in front of a camera like you have done today, he speaks eloquently and he speaks passionately and from the heart about what it means to him to be a professional player and play for Leeds Rhinos.
In sport, especially in rugby league and professional sport, you get found out very quickly if you're a fraud, if you're fake, if you're saying one thing and doing another. You get found out really quickly, and the lads around you, they're not thick. They spend every day with you. They know, and when you're speaking about stuff, it's hard for them to relate to you when you say, I want you to do this, do that, and they say, you don't do that.
We have to understand we work in a very harsh environment sometimes, performance-driven, pressure, and there's sometimes creative friction, and when people are so invested and so intense, everybody has the moments, but how you give and receive feedback can be the real key to it, and how you manage times when there might be some impetuous replies or people have words. People are kidding themselves if they don't think that happens in a contact sport like ours that's played with guys that are, highly motivated, highly driven, and the testosterone is flowing. It does happen, but that's something with Kruise that we feel there's some areas for improvement around that in his game. We actually think the responsibility of the captaincy and doing it for the team will bring the best out of him. And I guess one thing we were keen to stress is we don't actually want you to change too much. We don't want you to sit in a team room and think you've got to come out and give us a big Winston Churchill speech, or every time there's a clip you need to add your bit onto it. We just want you to keep doing what you're doing, leading by example, and be a guy that is a real standard setter within the club.
As a captain, you're actually having to think about others, and I think that's the biggest next step for me, coming from being a young player, worrying about myself, not having any kids, not depending on my parents, earning my own wage and my own way in life, to now finding out what makes other people tick and what makes them play their best. And I think that's the role of a captain. That's new to me. I've always just worried about making sure I'm right on the day. Obviously the captain is the little bit of changes. I've got to make sure everybody else is ticking, or find out what makes them tick, or what's wrong, why aren't they ticking on them certain days. And I think that's the next step for me.